You get a goal as well. That really couldn't have gone any better, could it?
No, I couldn't. I knew early last week the gaffer told me I was going to play, so I just had to be ready, and I'm delighted to come in and contribute in that way. It's stuff of dreams as a young Irish lad to come here and get your first start and to score on it too. It's special.
Well, also, let's talk about the goal as well. It comes in the second half. Really fantastic header. Finds the bottom corner. Just talk me through it and the feeling when it hit the back of the net.
Yeah, I know Luke's very good. He's on his left foot, and I knew he was going to hang it in there. I just need to get across the defender and just hit the target, and you always have a chance, and thankfully it went where I wanted it to go.
And of course, it looked like all your teammates were all around you, celebrating with you. It must have been a wonderful feeling to have that sort of togetherness with the boys.
It's special since I came back in January. They've really looked after me, but no, I'm delighted to get my opportunity here tonight and take it. And it's a great bunch of lads, and we've 2 more to go, and hopefully one big one.
The manager was just speaking to us there about how delighted he is, of course, for you as well. From your point of view, how much are you enjoying, working with Brendan Rodgers and this team day in, day out?
It's amazing. The gaffer has been unbelievable with me since I came back. I knew I had to be patient, and I trusted in what he said, and he's been absolutely second to none every day. I haven't been playing that much, but he's been there to try and make me a better player, and he has definitely made me a better player, and the confidence he gives me is just amazing, and thankfully I repaid him here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, of course, we're looking ahead to Saturday. Now, the manager was talking about looking for the win, of course, but after the match we get to lift the league title. How much are you looking forward to that, and do you think it will just give you hunger to experience more trophy wins with Celtic?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously we want to win the game. We have our own targets to hit before we finish on Saturday, but winning's the best feeling in the world, and once you win, you just want to win and win and win, and I think that's what this club is built on, and delighted.
Brilliant. Well done again tonight.
Thank you.
And that was Johnny Kenny. Yep, that was Johnny Kenny. He had a fantastic game last night. Obviously, he's just a player that header. When you look back at the header from last night that Johnny Kenny scored, it was fantastic, and I still think it was a bit Chris Sutton-like. It was definitely a bit Chris Sutton-like, the way that he floats in front of the defender for such a young lad, gets in front of his defender and then flicks the ball into the far corner away from the keeper. Very Chris Sutton-like. I mean, Chris Sutton would be sitting going, yeah, that's it. That was good. That was good, lad. That was fantastic. Brendan Rodgers has been talking about a lot of things from last night. Obviously, Johnny Kenny, one of them. James Forrest being another. He's talking about James Forrest, and he says, look, if James Forrest doesn't get his goal at the weekend, people have asked, is he on penalties? Well, we've not had a penalty yet, is it? When was the last time that Celtic did have a penalty? And will we get one at the... But there's no chance of getting a penalty. And it's not the Celtic style. It's not the Celtic way to try and get a penalty, is it? I think that James Forrest will want to score from open play rather than it handed to him on a plate. But it wouldn't surprise me if the later stages of the game you started to get one or two players just trying to wind up the St Mirren players to try and force something in the penalty box to give James his little moment of glory. Lanky says the header from Kenny reminded me of Big Yang against Dundee United back in the day. That's Van Yang, very good of Hesselhank. That's true. Brendan Rodgers also speaking about Rio Hatate and that terrible tackle that Rio got. And it's funny because you see a lot of the fans online, they obviously didn't see Rio walking down the side of the pitch with the ice pack. They wouldn't have seen Rio sitting behind the dugout with the ice pack on his knee. And Brendan Rodgers says, look, the young Aberdeen player basically lost the plot. He basically lost the plot. And I think that many of the Aberdeen players did lose the plot. Let's hope that Rio Hatate is okay for next week, for this weekend. But more importantly, I think they were trying to take him out of the game completely so that he wasn't there for the final. They're obviously looking at the final now. They'll look at the last time that they played Celtic at Hampden. It was 6-0. We've just beaten them 5-1 at home with our B team. And they must have the fear, the Aberdeen fans. And you've got to say, for the fact that Aberdeen were at home last night and it was the last home game of the season for them. What a disappointing turnout. but yet you'll get 20,000 of them buying tickets for their grannies and this and that and the next thing, and I think it's disgusting. I do think it's disgusting. They should be given the amount of tickets that they sell for their ground, and that's it. This nonsense that Aberdeen gave season ticket holders 4 tickets each for Hampden to fill out their allocation, when they can't even fill out their own ground. Do you know, it's just absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. When we look at things outside Celtic, there's a bit of noise going about Louis Palma this morning. I didn't know that Louis Palma was on 16 grand a week. 16 grand a week. Obviously, there's an update from Greece. We all know that Louis Palma, they're not wanting Louis Palma next season. So Louis Palma does have the potential to be coming back to Celtic if he does not get another club before pre-season starts. It's not ideal for Brendan Rodgers, but there's a lot of good to take from last night, even though we did not have Louis Palma anywhere near that team. And what about big Adam Ida? Adam Ida does what Adam Ida always does. The amount of hate that Adam gets is funny sometimes, because he scored 20 goals this season. He scored 10 more than he did last season. Which is fine, because he's played more than half the season. He came into Celtic with that big price tag. People said that it wasn't worth the money, and he's just done his job and scored goals. With the game time that he's had over the course of the season, Adam Ida, it was a poacher's goal. It was a striker's goal, and that's what I loved about it last night. He hits off the rebound. He's done that a couple of times in his career, and I think that people need to start laying off Adam Ida. He's a young guy, just like Johnny Kenny. The two of them were absolutely fantastic last night. There was no one in the team that you could say had a bad game. I mean, young McArdle coming on. You see McArdle shaking hands with big Adam Ida there at the side picture. He's just going to be an absolute baller of a player. I think young McArdle is just going to be absolutely fantastic. There's words that it's hard to describe this young lad here and how good the potential that he has. That flick that he did on the outside of the box was just sublime for a young guy. Absolutely sublime. Anyway, let's jump into the comments this morning. Megan said hello. Some of you have got the fact that Louis Palma could be coming back to Celtic at the beginning of... let's not even think about that far ahead. There's no fun. How long is Palma's contract? Do we need to sell him? But who's going to buy him? He was one of the ones that were brought in. He was brought in at a time where everyone was given 5-year contracts. So I think he's still got about 3 years left on his contract, at least minimum. And Celtic are trying to recoup the money that they paid for him. But I think obviously that his wage. Palma on more money than Greg Taylor. No wonder he wants to leave. Is he on more money than Greg Taylor? Because Greg Taylor's looking for 25 grand a week. Anyway, let's not talk about transfers this morning. Let's talk about all the things good. And Brendan Rodgers, talking about the Aberdeen manager, he said he admitted the performance for his side was unacceptable. It wasn't just unacceptable. I thought the fact that their players lost the plot. They must be really dreading the game at Hampden. They must be dreading it. The Aberdeen manager went on to say, myself and the staff and the players spoke about it in the dressing room, and of course it's not acceptable. Even if Celtic is a really strong team, to lose 5 goals at home to Pittodrie is something we cannot do again. Well, just wait till next season and Celtic come calling, mate, because I think that the way that we have finished, how impressive is it the way that we've finished this season this year? When we look at Greg Taylor's on 15 grand a week and Palmer's on 16. There you go, Greg's on 15 a week. So be it. It is what it is, isn't it? It is what it is. Brandon's listening to us at work, even better. That's perfect. Brendan Rodgers, talking about the game last night, said when it comes to the Rio Hatate one, he said it was a needless challenge. The free kick was given and the ball runs away. Rio's just relaxed, stopping. The guy loses his head and just kicks through to block tackles him. So hopefully it's going to be nothing too serious. There wouldn't have been much of an update from Celtic last night with regards to Rio Hatate due to the fact that they were all travelling home last night and they're getting the bus down the road. It'll be today that they'll probably get him in for a scan. And let's just hope that he's fine for the weekend, because it would be a shame for Rio Hatate not to get onto the pitch for the final game of the season at Celtic Park. Yeah, let's just move on from that, because it was a horrible tackle. There was no need for it anyway. Young Sean McArdle, showed his potential yesterday with that fantastic display from the Celtic reserves. You still got to say it. 17-year-old, he's featured on the bench the last couple of times. People saying, even myself, Brendan Rodgers needs to give youth more of a chance. When you wait until the league is done and dusted, it's all fine, and you give these young players a chance. But I think, despite the fact he's only 17, he has shown that he is ready to make the step up. We spoke about it on the live last night. For me, the touches and sharpness that boy shown last night was brilliant. Was absolutely brilliant. If they're good enough, get them on the pitch. It'll give us something to talk about during the summer anyway, that's for sure, whether or not we keep him or we loan the player out. Right, I thought wee Jamesy was getting his goal last night, says Mark. Yeah, I thought so as well, but he didn't. And Brendan Rodgers says, look, even if he doesn't get his goal, he is still a fantastic player. And he's a player that gives so much to Celtic, even though he's been out injured for a lot of this season. He does give a lot out. Forget Taylor, he's yesterday's man, he's gone. This is Paul Baird. I'm just reading through some of the comments. Chilpel says he hopes Brendan Rodgers reconsiders a role for Norowski. He is a player as well that, even though I don't think he was ever told to leave Celtic, was he? He's not the sort of Gustav Lagerbielke. I mean, Brendan Rodgers told Gustav Lagerbielke to leave. He's came in and he's been solid. We paid 4.3 million for him. I think that he's definitely a squad player that we need to keep, especially for the way that the defence is. And can he get better? I think he can with game time. I'll say it again, like he says, we don't need Lennon Miller because there's a better player in their youth in the young McArdle. That's interesting, Lanky. But when we look at what we're trying to do at Celtic, and for what Brendan Rodgers says, and the fact that he wants to have a core of the team, it wouldn't surprise me if he still went for Lennon Miller. Because you've got to think 2 or 3 years down the line. You've got to think 2, 3 years down the line when Callum McGregor hangs up his boots. You know, when Jamesy Forrest hangs up his boots. That's two Scottish players that are going to be missing from the team. So, we'll just wait and see. Paul says, I can't cast my mind back to the dress rehearsal in Hibs 2001 when Jackie scored 2 versus them and it was a 5-2 win. Chilpel says, we ain't getting Lennon Miller. Is it such a big deal if we do or if we don't? Ultimately, Lennon Miller wants to play first team football, and I don't think it's going to be is Lennon Miller going to be as good as John McGinn? Is he going to be as good as John McGinn as a player? That's the question that you should really be asking ourselves. Is he going to be better than John McGinn, whose granddad sadly passed away yesterday? Miller's used to playing every week. He won't get that at Celtic. Will he not? Because there is the big Rio Hatate question. Tartan Paint says Lennon will go to Italy. Will he get a game time every week in Italy? Let me just close these windows down and the goal tally, which has went through the roof. It's unbelievable the amount of goals. Brendan Rodgers was asked last night if his side had scared the living daylights out of the Aberdeen side. I think they did. They lost their rag. Aberdeen last night lost their rag completely. Completely lost their rag. They just fucking lost it altogether, man. It was Rodgers hailed James Forrest, Johnny Kenny and Big Mark at the back. We need a couple of goals to beat Ange Postecoglou's 114. We're sitting on 111. We're 3 short. Brendan Rodgers will want to beat Ange Postecoglou's goal tally of 114. Definitely. I think it's going to be a big high-scoring game this weekend. Celtic, Brendan Rodgers is going to go for it, isn't he? Everything that was good about the game last night, the speed, the way that we played, the way that we controlled it. His dad doesn't want him in the Glasgow Fishbowl, says Tommy, talking about. Does he not? Have you heard his dad say that? We can all, do you know what? I mean, the Lennon and Miller thing will take care of itself. I want Miller at the club, but if he doesn't fancy it, it's his loss, says Les Watts. If we could even play Paolo or Luke on a weekly basis, what's the chances? If we can't play Paolo or Luke on a weekly basis, what's the chance of Lennon getting a game before them? You've got to remember, Rio Hitati won't be at Celtic next summer, Lanky. You're taking it on the premise that Rio Hitati will be at this club next summer. And he won't be. I still stand by it. I said last summer that this season would be the last season that we see Rio Hitati as a Celtic player, and I still stand by that. I still stand by it. He'll be gone this summer. Depends on which club he goes to in Italy, says Irishman in Porto, who's loving the sun in Portugal today. It's fucking cloudy here. The missus said that I've got more chance of getting a suntan this weekend when I go home to Scotland because the weather's fantastic back there. Hope the players don't take the final as a given, says Square Sausage Mick. Not a chance. When you see the way that the reserves played last night, the Celtic team that goes out to Hampden will play. They'll play the same way as they played against Aberdeen in the semi-final. They'll want to go out and demolish them. They'll want to go out and break records. This could be one of the highest scoring finals ever, I think. I think it could be, if I'm putting a bet on for the final, I'm going for a 5-1 or 6-0. Do you know, I think we've got the measure of this Aberdeen side so much that the team will want to go out on a massive high. And especially with the likes of Rio Hitati and I'm going to say it, Dyson Maeda. There's a few other players that will know that this could potentially be their last game, and they want to go out breaking records. Spain, it's like Spain and Girvan, Baz. It's like Spain and Girvan. It's still going to be about 25 degrees today, but it's just a bit cloudy here. But see when it's -1 in Girvan during the winter, and I'm sitting in 20 degrees. How serious is Rio's injury? We don't know. Celtic won't know either until they got down the road. And the fact that he was in ice walking down the side of the pitch, they'll obviously get him scanned today. It'll be this afternoon. Rocky was excellent last night. He could be a fantastic player for us. Would you like to see? I mean, think about it. Rocky was brought in to partner Cameron Carter-Vickers. Aberdeen didn't have their strongest team out yesterday, to be fair. Does that really... We didn't have our strongest team out, Chill Pill, and we still beat them 5-1. So no, We still beat them 5-1. So what does it say when if they have put their strongest team out and we put our strongest team out, we'll still beat them. They put their strongest team out at the semi-final and look what happened to that. Hope Shinnie's left back in the final because he was on toast. Play Rocky Moore, said this for a long time, says Lanky. He was brought in to partner Cameron Carter-Vickers at the back. Is he better than Liam Scales? I would say so. It gives Brendan Rodgers a lot to think about this summer, and when you look at the playing squad, it's like how many changes is there ultimately going to be, as long as when you look at the players that are going to leave from the defence, there's obviously going to be Greg Taylor and Jeffrey Sloop. Now, both of them fill the one position. We're bringing in Kieran Tierney. Liam Scales is going nowhere. Austin Trust is going nowhere. Big Rocky's going nowhere. Cameron Carter-Vickers is going nowhere. Tony Ralston's going nowhere. So we're not going to bring anyone in for the central defence. I think that, if anything, I mean, you're still looking at the same four central defenders going into next season. The only position that we're going to bring anyone in may be another left back, because it looks like that there's nobody at the club that can play in the left back position that can come through with Kieran Tierney. When you look at the midfield, Luke McCown's going nowhere, Arnie Engels is going nowhere, Paolo Bernardo's going nowhere, Rio Hatate, well, he's off. Callum McGregor's going nowhere, Jamesy Forrest, he's going nowhere. The only issue that we've got with the forward three positions, Jota's out injured. We'll bring in a winger of some sorts to cover the position for the fact that Jota won't not be here in the Champions League. When it comes to the strikers department, Johnny Kenny has definitely given Celtic something to think about. The fact that Adam Ida he's classed as our number one striker at the moment. You've got the wingers, which is Nico Kuhn. Massive possibility that he could be off in the summer, which means that we would need to bring in two wingers this summer. And then you've got Yang, who for me is grown as a player. He is definitely one that is coming onto a game. And whatever Brendan Rodgers is doing with Yang, it's been absolutely magnificent, because he's turning him into a real good winger. Could he be the one that steps up to the plate if Nico Kuhn's sold? There's a few clubs circling about Nico Kuhn. Could be the fact that Yang's the one that steps up, but then we're still two wingers down for the squad. So Celtic will go into the market for a minimum of one winger this summer. And then there's the Dyson Maeda question. If Dyson Maeda is sold this summer, it could be wholesale changes in the front line. It could be wholesale changes. I mean, Johnny Kenny's still going to be here. There's still people making noises that Celtic need to bring in a striker, which would mean Johnny Kenny dropping to the bench. And I think that's unfair. I think trusty shit, says Chilpel. But talking about the striking department, if we bring in another striker, Johnny Kenny then drops to the bench as a third choice striker. Will Brendan Rodgers now be looking at young Johnny Kenny and saying, do you know what, if he can score a goal like that in that game against Aberdeen, you know, let's get him into the full pre-season mode and then see what we can do pre-season, and then just take it from there. Celtic need to get, I mean, Brendan Rodgers has said, look, I'm not too fussy if our strikers don't score 30 goals. Well, Adam Ida, who's only played half a season, has scored 20. Johnny Kenny next season will score a minimum of 10 goals for Celtic. At least a minimum of 10. And let's just hope that we can keep a hold of Dyson Maeda. And then when you look at all the players, I mean, we've got a massive amount of players. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've got 12 players out on loan. 12 players out on loan. When you go through them, you've got Toby at Dunfermline, the goalkeeper. He's still to come back to Celtic. A lot of people said that he's improved at Dunfermline. Got Matthew Anderson, who's been at Admiral Wacker for a couple of seasons. I'm sure his contract's actually up at the end of the season. You've got Kwon, who's been at Hibs for 2 seasons. Marco Tilio, who's been missing and out of the country. He will be let go this summer. Also, he'll be sold back to the club that he's at just now. Gustav Lagerbielke will be sold. You've got Lenny, who's at Ayr United. He was sent to Ayr United to work with Scott Brown. Can he come back? He looked okay at the beginning of the season. Is he the finished article? Maybe not. He'll maybe stay at Ayr United for another season. And then you've got young Ben Summers, who's been at Admiral Wacker. Ben Summers was a player that come on last season, towards the end of the season. He's been loaned out. Can he come back and make a name for himself? Lewis Palmer, he's on loan at Olympiacos. He's going to be sold. Then there's a Stephen Welsh question. Stephen Welsh, he's out on loan. His time is up at Celtic, I think. He'll want to leave to continue his career. Adam Montgomery, we're forgetting about young Adam Montgomery. Can he come in and follow in the footsteps of Kieran Tierney? He's been at Queen's Park. Is that been a good enough standard for him, for young Montgomery? And can he be back up to Kieran Tierney? In the midfield, you've got, it's out in Los Angeles, Odom Ohm. He says that he wants to come back to Celtic to work with Brendan Rodgers. He's loaned out until December this year. And then, why has it got two Adam Montgomerys out on loan? Fucking bizarre, Celtic. They do actually have two Adam Montgomerys out on loan. Anyway, we move on for that. So it's going to be a massive summer no matter what. Bring back Matthew. We all know how I feel about young Matthew, says Lanky. Yang is definitely worth keeping around, and he's still not good enough to cement that place for himself. He's a great player to bring on though. Chilbo says he doesn't want to lose Dyson. But prepare yourself for the worst for the summer. That's all I'm saying. Is prepare yourself for the worst, because I don't think that we can seriously go into this summer and not expect some big bids to come in for Dyson Maida, Nico Kuhn and Rio Hatate. And that the worrying point for me is the fact that they've been at the club, apart from Nico Kuhn, and the other two have been at the club that long, that it could be that just that natural footballing time for them to move on. You know, there comes, as much as Celtic may want to keep one or two of them, there comes a natural time that a player says, you know what, I'm going to try something different. And especially if they win a treble. You think about Dyson Maida and Rio Hatate have won trebles under Ange Postecoglou. They've played at the Champions League and they almost got to the last 16 in the Champions League. If we win another treble with Celtic, if that's two trebles that they've won, there's not more that they can do, is there? So from a football perspective, they'll say, do you know what, boss, I want to try and improve the level that I'm playing at so that I can cement the place in the national team. And to do that, I need to go to a top 5 league. I've done everything I can at Celtic. I've won everything that I can. And I've not just won it once, but I've won the treble twice. Touch wood that we win the treble. And you can't deny them. You know, Brendan Rodgers will say, fair enough, yeah, I understand what you're saying. And from a football perspective, he will allow them to go. Like they did with Kyogo. We didn't have to sell Kyogo at Christmas, but he'd been making noises that he wanted to go since way before. Anderson's the boy at Admiral Wacker, isn't he? Yep, he's at Admiral Wacker. I've got a feeling that Rio will miss the first 2 months of the season. If he misses the first 2 months of the season, Celtic will sell him at the next transfer window. Nah, he'll not miss the first 2 games of the season because he went out on ice. It's nothing like, he didn't go out on a moon boot. He didn't go out on a moon boot. Chilpil, there's been over 500 people on the live already. Never mind the 199 that are currently watching. What's the right back called that played pre-season? He was decent as well. Was that no Montgomery? Let's see if there's any. And I'm glad that James Forrest finally got a song finally has his own song. Well, it's not his own song, is it? It's the Jimmy Johnson song. But he is a living legend, isn't he? McGurman is left back, left mid. But there you go. When we look at the fact that that's the midweek games done, I'm devastated. I hate this time of year. I do. Is it just me? Because it's like, that's shit. Got loads to look forward to, obviously. Fly home tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, there will... I don't think there'll be a live because I need to leave to go to the airport. I'll be at the airport at this time tomorrow. So there won't be a live tomorrow morning. I'll try and get up early and do a pre-recorded video of any news that is kicking around, and then I'll do some kind of live later on when I land in Scotland, and then when it gets on to Saturday morning, we'll just play it by ear. There could be a few random lives start before the game. I don't know how I'm going to do the live an hour and a half before kick-off. I'm hoping to try and get through to Celtic Park for that. Donovan with the B team. We need to get better at finding good loans for our young players. Work for Scales, Ayer and Christie. We put them to Dunfermline. We put Scales and Christie to Dunfermline. But they weren't 17. I think the problem that we've got with young Sean McArdle, is the fact that he is only 17. And clubs we spoke about this in the live last night, is that if you're going to put him out on loan, top clubs are no really going to entice a 17-year-old into their first team. He's going to have to be something special. And if he's that good, and it's a case of why is he not then staying at Celtic? Mind Baz, the party, you need to start a song of No Square Sausage, No Party. Big Des says, heavy gutted, I'm up to Fort William today, so missing the party. Des, you're joking. I'm flying all the way home just for you. Flying all the way home just for you. Scales and Christie went to Aberdeen. Yes, Les, they did. They went to Aberdeen on loan. And so did Charlie Mulgrew. Charlie Mulgrew went to Aberdeen as well. So you've got to think, I mean, that we do have... But they were a bit older. Do you know, they weren't 17, they were early 20s. And the issue that we do have is young McArdle, he's 17. Does he stay in and around the first team for a season, which allows him to get some game time, and then put him out on loan? I think it would be easier if, because of his age, if other clubs see him getting some game minutes for Celtic. If they can see him getting some game minutes and they see how good he is, it makes it a little bit easier for him being such a young player to then go out to another SPFL club. Des, I'm gutted, honestly. Christie only came to Glasgow to sign a contract and went yeah, he did. That's true. He went straight back to Inverness Cali Thistle. He's signed in the winter, didn't he? He went back for the rest of the season to Inverness. Kaiser's in the house. Kaiser and Big Des are camp together. Club open to all and that. We should be sending a few players to Shamrock Rovers every season. Well, it's worked good for Johnny Kenny. You've got to remember, Johnny Kenny he went back to Shamrock Rovers for 2 seasons. So maybe that's an option for McArdle. Because when Johnny Kenny went back to Shamrock Rovers, he was a wee skinny lad, and you're like, that wee skinny boy's never going to make it. But he's grown, and I mean here in the full-time Baz. He's came back a lot more mature, a lot bigger, and in strength and stature, and it could be a case that, you know, put McArdle over to Ireland and see how he gets on there, just to get him the game time and progress as a player. We need to do something with him, that's for sure. And then you can expect after the game this weekend, what happened to the fan last night up in Aberdeen? There's nothing really came out about it. The game was stopped for, I think it was an Aberdeen fan. I thought it was an Aberdeen fan that was... Chris Sutton was well chuffed with the team last night as well. I was saying it was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, are we playing down how good that game was last night, considering it was the reserves? Chris Sutton put a great night for Johnny Kenny, a lovely moment for him. James Forrest, the most underrated Celtic player in my memory, and absolutely phenomenal, Chris Sutton said on Twitter. Just say that. Sutton's never have Twitter, isn't he? He's mad. And a picture with him and Ian Crocker, the worst commentator in football. I don't know how he's managed to. I mean, he's had a free reign at Scottish football for about 20 years, hasn't he? Chris Sutton says, Celtic second string, too good for Aberdeen. Great night for Johnny Kenny. Lovely moment for James Forrest, the most underrated player in my memory. Absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal, says Chris Sutton. Is James Forrest the most underrated? Got to remember again, he scored the winner against Rangers last week. If Maida wasn't so greedy, yeah, I know. He got paid to disrupt Celtic's momentum. I think that's all he did, didn't he? That's all it did. It kind of, because the game stopped for so long. I mean, there was at one point they were talking about they were going to take the team back into the dressing room. We should just buy Shamrock Rovers and establish the Celtic group, use them as B team setup. Yeah, shaved tonight. That would be a good idea, actually. That'd be a good idea. Shamrock challenge every season for the title and play in UEFA competitions, so it would give our kids a winning mentality. You're right there, Irishman and Porto, actually. So I wouldn't be too adverse to putting them to Crocker's a ball bag. Oh, Jesus. The terminology that you'd never hear for ages. Loved the activity, Kenny. He was quiet, but I'm glad Brendan Rodgers has stuck with him until he netted. Yeah, this is very, very true. Horrible songs last night from the Sheep. Fucked a lot of them. I don't care about the Sheep. I mean, they're also rans. Do you know what I mean? They need to look at what they did this season, and the fact that Aberdeen are going to end up in 5th position, and they're not going to get any European football, and that'll hurt them. Speaking of Shamrock Rovers, did you know that Dermot Desmond has got shares with the Shamrock and dated €2 million before we got Scales? That's right, because Scales came from there as well. The Aberdeen fan is in stable condition, but it says, there we go. The fan went to hospital, we checked, he's okay. Oh, no, that's alright. Anyway, right, that's me done and dusted for this morning. I need to go and get ready. I haven't even packed or anything. Fly tomorrow, and that's only just a pack half an hour before I go. Anyway, on that note, it's been absolutely fantastic this morning. What about Rio Hatate getting injured? Oh, bad one. Let's hope that he's fine for the weekend. Adam Ida scores again. Absolutely fantastic. He's now on 20 goals for the season. Who'd have thought that? With all the stick that he's been given over the course of the season, people saying that he's not good enough and he's not Celtic class, Adam Ida just keeps on doing what Adam Ida does, and that is scoring goals. So on that note, have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.